Alright guys, welcome to another beer review, and this is a beer from the Beer52 Ireland box, which was kindly gifted to me by my good friend Craig over at Kent Beer Reviews. So if I can get a hold of his referral link, I'm going to include that down below with all of his information. And of course I'm going to put my Beer52 referral link, so if you want to get yourself a little bit of a discount on some beer, you'd be helping both of us out. But yeah, so Craig was very kindly to forward on a box to me, and I won't be reviewing all of them on the channel. Some of them I just want to sit back and enjoy, because I tend to find that I've not really done that with beer recently. Most of the stuff I've bought has just been bought primarily for reviews, and I want to sort of just break away from that, you know, just enjoy a beer for what it is. But I thought I'd review one today because I'm in the mood to record a review. So we're going over to the Kinnegar Brewing. I've got the notes about the beer down below in the magazine, the Ferment magazine, which you get free with Beer52 subscription. And this is the Rustbucket Rye Ale, clocking in at 5.1% ABV in a very snazzy bottle. It's got a sort of like a Fuller's look to it in terms of its shape, and also reminds me of a German brewery called Brewcraft Munich Mafia, something along those lines. God, I can't remember what they're called. Also the Giersinger Brauerei in Munich as well. But yeah, why are we talking about Germany when we should be talking about Ireland? So these guys are based in County Connaught. I do apologise for any Irish viewers. So a little bit of information about the brewery. Kinnegar Brewing. Our roots are deeply embedded in the hilly fields and farms and the wild Atlantic coastline of Donegal. The perfect environment for the way we brew beer. We don't filter or pasteurise, and we let our friends and yeast carbonate our beer naturally. At Kinnegar, Irish farmhouse ethos meets a contemporary sense of brewing adventure to produce clean, crisp and highly drinkable beers. And some notes about the beer itself. We love rye malt so much we developed the Bucket range of beers around it. The original in the series, Rustbucket, is named after Rusty, a beloved dog who kicked the bucket, unfortunately, sorry to hear that. And a touch of spice from the rye balances beautifully with hot notes of citrus and tropical fruit. So just described as a rye ale then. A cool looking artwork on this one. I like the simplicity of it. It's got an orange cap to match the label, and yeah, there we have a little illustration of, I'm guessing, Rusty, the little dog that inspired the beer. So a Rustbucket Rye Ale is inspired by an old friend, a real character and independent spirit, but always a faithful companion. This description also fits our friends at An Gianan Theatre, for whom we originally developed this. So if I remember to do so, I'll be putting their links down there, because I like to mention whoever's mentioned on a label. I like to give them a shout out as well. So ingredients are water, rye, hops and yeast. And that's about it for now. 330ml bottle, 5.1% ABV. Just a really nice and pretty little bottle by all accounts. So without any further ado, let's get this beer opened and see what we get. Oh, that's interesting already. So, using my beer moth snifter for this. Now, rye beers aren't necessarily one of my favourites, it has to be said. Although I do like rye in general. I love rye bread. A good, especially like a German style rye bread, always floats my boat. But yeah, anyway, beer in the glass then, and that's a lovely sort of coppery colour. A little bit of orangey amber hues in there. There's very subtle haziness. It'll probably cloud up a little bit more when I put the rest of the beer in and it's all shook around in the bottle. But yeah, it's got a lovely sort of deepness to it. And you can see some lovely, is deepness a proper word? I don't think that's good England, Peter, but you know what I mean. Lovely little bits and bobs floating in there, just like a very subtle cloud of sedimentation. And it looks absolutely lovely on camera. It looks lovely in person as well. And the beer poured with about half a finger's worth of a slightly sort of cream looking head. Well, cream isn't really a colour, is it, Peter? Because cream can be white. It can be a little bit like little subtle hints of brown. It's got like a very subtle beige to it, but it is primarily white on the lighting on the camera. But it's a very pretty looking beer. So let's see what we get on the nose. It's got like a pale ale whiff to it. You definitely pick up the hops in there. Lovely sort of like muted citrusy tones. It's got that sort of like almost like a big hit of Cascade actually. But then you get that breadiness there, very subtle spicy tones. Sort of reminds me of rye bread if there was a bit of flour sprinkled on it. Slight marmalade character as well. That's like that lovely combination of those hops mixing with that rye character. Almost reminds me of like marmalade on toast. Lovely subtle orange peels and rinds going on. Yeah, lovely, almost like muscovado sugar presence as well. It's like that perfect balance of sweetness, citrusy characters, and then this lovely, very subtle spicy tone, which gives it a very subtle funk edge to it as well. Well, it smells absolutely lovely. Let's give it a taste. Cheers. That rye comes out a hell of a lot more on the taste. And that rye character within this beer is absolutely lovely. I'm not usually the biggest fan of like rye-based beers, but this, it works really, really well because that rye has such a presence. And it's probably because I've been eating a lot more rye bread recently that I'm appreciating those flavours a little bit more. But just like on the nose, lovely orangey characters. It's got like a, it's citrusy but sweet at the same time. It's sort of like a cross between a lemon curd and like a blood orange marmalade with like a rye backbone. Considerably bitter on the back end, it has to be said. You know, that hoppiness mixing in with that rye character. But it's not too overwhelming. Doesn't linger too much in an unpleasant way. Doesn't outstay its welcome. It just prickles on the tongue almost. But yeah, like very like subtle, like white pepper tones in there as well. The beer's not really changed at all, aside from the head being reinforced and looking a lot more creamy. But yeah, this is a really nice, just well-rounded, quaffable beer, essentially. Yeah, it's got that like pale ale quality to it, but offset with a nice bready spiciness. And for me, the star of the show is the rye that they've used in this. It's just got so much character in that regard. But yeah, I can't pick out too many faults with this one. Not exactly, I'm not going to lie, it's still not exactly my cup of tea. But for a rye-based beer, I really, really like that. It almost reminds me of a rye IPA I had when I was in Germany from the Kinnegar Brewery, which was like the Roggen IPA. Now, the Germans know how to use rye in beers really, really nicely because they've got a lot of, you know, dense, earthy rye breads. So they've nailed it, and this is like up there with it. Not that, you know, I don't think Germany are like renowned by the world for their rye beers by anything, but from my personal experience, that's what I'm getting from this. But yeah, it's also got that like new wave yet traditional classicness about it, which I do really like. This is something that an old school drinker could enjoy, but also one of the, you know, the new wave of craft beer drinkers, that sort of thing. It's going to appease a lot of people. And yeah, I'd happily have like a couple halves of this, or maybe a couple of pints of this during the session. Would go absolutely perfectly with something like fish and chips, with loads of malt vinegar. I could see this cutting through that really, really nicely. And I've just had chip butties, and I wish I'd have popped this open before, because that would have been a really satisfying, comforting meal. It's got like a really nice, almost autumnal vibe about it, and we're having some really cold weather, so like that like rye spiciness almost gives it a little bit of a warming heat, almost. But yeah, that's a really nice introduction to the brewery, and I'd be more than happy to try more of their beers in the future, especially if they're anything like this. I just love the classic meets the new. I like that, and it comes in really nicely for a style or a sub-style or a sort of brewing technique or tradition that I'm still yet to really, warm to. But that's absolutely lovely. In terms of rating then, on Kinnegar's Rustbucket Rye Ale, I'm going to give that a very solid 7.5 out of 10. I think that's a really good beer to put in a box to promote Irish beer. It's not one of these like, oh, we're doing this trend, here's our attempt. But at the same time, it's not one of these beers where it's like, oh, well, yeah, you can have this in your box type deal. It sort of like showcases what they could do, and I'd love to try more, especially in this bucket series. I think it's a really intriguing idea, and it's inspired by a pet dog, so you've got me suckered in there. If you dedicate a beer to an animal, or even have like the artwork, and lovely, is that a hare or a rabbit on there? I'm a sucker for it, as an animal lover. So if I wasn't me, I'd probably give it a point just for that, but I'm trying to be as objective as I possibly can be. So if you've tried anything from Kinnegar, or indeed this beer, then let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. I know Craig is getting this box, but I'm not sure if he'll be reviewing this one. By the time this is uploaded, he may well have, so I'll put his review down below, but I'll definitely be putting his links because I get to try these beers because of him. Check out Beer52. I've got a playlist of beers that I've received from Beer52. Check out my referral link as well to get yourself a nice little discount. I'm going to put my Irish beer playlist in the description box, and my whichever style in post I decide to dedicate this beer to. But yeah, lovely stuff. If you love your rye beers and your rye ales, I think you'll really enjoy this one. So yeah, if you have tried it, let me know your thoughts, opinions. If you've tried anything from the brewery, of course, thoughts, opinions, recommendations. Let me know some of your favourite Irish breweries, both traditional and craft, and some of your favourite beers that I'll keep a good eye out in the future. And yeah, hopefully you'll join me next time for another beer review. Thank you guys for watching, and I shall hopefully see you all later. Slangy var.